Good afternoon. My name is Jim Livingston, and I'm from McRae, Georgia. It is a real pleasure to be with you here today. And I'm sorry I can't be with you in person down in Thomasville. You have absolutely a wonderful hometown. It is a very historic hometown, and I was really looking forward to just getting back to Thomasville and seeing all the beautiful homes and meeting all of you wonderful people. And I understand over 214 people are at this event today. And I thank you for coming out today and recognizing Memorial Day and recognize the service and sacrifice of the men and women who have kept this country free. I especially want to thank Ron Bannister, and Ron has just been a real wonderful guy to work with. He's done remarkable work. He's kept me well informed, and probably some of you are aware of the fact I've had some significant medical problems, or I would be with you today. And the fact I'm 84 years old and still upright, I guess I have to say that in a positive sense. But one thing about it, Colonel Brown introduced me, and Colonel Brown is from the Army, as I understand. And I want to say thank you, Colonel Brown, for the introduction. And I spent 3 years down at Fort Benning, Georgia, basically, with the Army Ranger Airborne Scout Dogs at the Army Infantry School in '69 to '72. And you guys in the Army are part of the reason I'm having this problem, because you were kicking me out of perfectly good airplanes. As a consequence, I had a couple of bad parachute bumps, and that's somewhat associated with my back problems. So after about 4 back operations, I'm hoping this will conclude all the issues associated with my back, and I'll get back to being 100% ready and airborne qualified. So Colonel Brown, all the way. And again, thank you very much for that great introduction. And I feel just be very honored in your company and the company of all the other people, particularly the veterans. And for all the veterans out there today, thank you for your service and sacrifice. Thank all the families, too, for your service and sacrifice. And I also want to note if there's any Gold Star families and family members associated with this group that have lost servicemen and women from your family, thank you for your service and sacrifice. I would like to note a couple of people today. One I'd like to, I guess, pick on a little bit, a guy named Will Sanders, and he's from McRae, Georgia, and he knew my brother Don. So, Will, I hope you're with us today, and if you are, I'm sorry to get a chance to meet you, and I wish I had to get a chance to sort of talk to you about Don and my memories of my brother Don. I also like to note the Commanding Officer of Marine Corps Logistic Base Albany, Colonel Michael Fitzgerald, and the Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, I hope you're taking good care of him. Sergeant Major Chad Costin. And also we have the NCO of the Year from that great base that do great things for our Marine Corps, Christopher Montana. So Chris, congratulations to you, and thank you for your service and sacrifice. A young man that really stood out in the notes I received regarding who would be in attendance today is Jackson Robert Emmett. Jackson, God bless you, my friend. You've got a wonderful resume, and I understand you've been selected for the Naval Academy. And as you know, and I think this audience knows, less than 1% of our people in this country serve in the military. And you're the kind of an example of a young man or young woman we need more of. And we're going to only be able to keep America free and have the great country we want to live in as long as we have more and more of Jackson Robert Emmett's joining the military and being leaders in our future military. So welcome aboard to the Naval Academy. My daughter's a graduate from the Naval Academy. And welcome aboard to you. I know you're going to have a wonderful career in either the Marine Corps or Navy, predicated on what you choose. But I'm hoping you're going to be a Marine. So we're looking forward to have you in our Semper Fi Marine Corps. So have a good time when you report to the Naval Academy. Do good and become a great military officer and become a great role model. And your grades are remarkable. I tell you, being a guy who graduated in Lumber City, Georgia, in a classroom of 26 students, and looking at your grades, what remarkable testimonial it is to the grades that you have. And there's a good general out there named Hammer Hartzell. And how you doing there, my friend? I'm sorry I'm not with you today, but I understand you really taking care of the vets with Governor DeSantis down in Florida. And I know they've just blessed to have you as their leader of the VA system down in Florida. And I know you're really doing a great job. And I looked at your resume, and it was a pleasure. I tried to sort of put it all together and remember all the details. Not too good, but I read through your resume again, and you did some super jobs as a Marine, and had some great commands, and the great 4th Marine Division, one of the stalwart divisions from Iwo Jima, and thank you for your service and sacrifice. And Hammer, continue to take care of those vets down in Florida. You know, it's the day of remembrance today, and a lot of people are having a good time. And I'm not talking down to anyone who's having a good time on Memorial Day. But today we commemorate service and sacrifice and that ultimate gift, that people, when they go into harm's way and don't come home. And this is the day to remember those who did not come home. And those families, remember those families who gifted to this country that person that didn't come home. That's the thing I really want to emphasize today, this service and sacrifice, this gifting of a life, and this remembrance of that life. And one thing you're going to do here in Thomasville, as I understand, is you're going to memorialize that in a way when you're going to build a great museum. And I was told that you got $500,000 towards that museum. And I would ask all of you really to be involved in that museum and make sure that museum is built, because we need as many museums and as many stories as we can tell the young Americans who are coming up today about our great country. So please support that museum. Make sure you set up a great endowment and you can sustain it long after a lot of the older fellows that are involved in this and ladies that are involved in this museum now, and sustain it for future generations. So let's memorialize this Memorial Day by saying we're committed to building that museum. And hopefully next year or a couple of years, it will be open. It will be a place of remembrance. It will be a place where young people can come and remember the sacrifice of those who have given it all for this great country we call America. You know, Thomasville is also a very historic city, but you got some very historic people. And I'd just like to note 3 of them at least. One is Tommy L. Spence Jr., who was born in 1896. He was a multiple sport athlete at Thomasville High School. And he enlisted in the Army Air Service during World War I flying fighters and died in a crash on November 27th, 1918 in France, just after the end of the war. The museum will bear his name, and that will be a long-term, I think, just recognition of what he has done for the community, the country, and certainly he helped so much in preserving freedom for this great country we call America. We got another one, I've heard of him all my life in the Marine Corps, Henry Talmadge Elrod, USMC from Thomasville, Georgia, another great American, great athlete. He was born on September 27th in 1905. He played football at Thomasville High School. Went to the University of Georgia, being an Auburn War Eagle. I'm not sure how I can respond to that any further than say War Eagle, and I don't know about them dogs, but I love the dogs. But he went on to Yale. I don't know why he went to Yale. He should have stayed at the University of Georgia. But the greatness of it, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. Became a fighter pilot, and he really got in a major fight with 22 Japanese fighters. He downed 2 of them and ultimately dropped small bombs and sank a Japanese destroyer. He was involved and helped defend Wake Island, and he lost his life. He was killed on December 23rd, 1941. He is currently interned in Washington, D.C. at the National Cemetery. And like I say, he is just a testimonial, and he's your Medal of Honor recipient from Thomasville, Georgia. So as you think about and enjoy your day, think about Elrod. Think about his gift to the country. Think about his gift to his community. He gave it all, and that's what we're talking about today. In 1983, they named the ship after him, and I recall the Elrod. And God bless him again for what he did. You know, we got a lot of history about Memorial Day, and I'm not going to go through the history, but you know, really the Memorial Day came out of after the Civil War. And during the Civil War, we lost so many people. In Georgia, if you go back and read Georgia history and the units from Georgia, they really lost a lot of people. We won't get into the politics of the war. We'll get into the remembrance of the gifting of life. Every life that was lost, all 618,000 of those lives were lost, were very special Americans. And God bless them, and may they rest in peace. And when I go home to my cemetery, the Livingston Cemetery down in Lumber City, Georgia, there's 2 Livingstons living that are buried there from the Georgia infantry. And I always studied them, and remember, it was not about the war. It was about the gift of life, and they gifted their life. And they did it based on the circumstances that presented themselves at that time. So I'll just remember them as cousins and what they offered up. And that's what young people are still doing today. I think the thing that I also like to emphasize too is the fact that we are very special people. And I want to really talk to the young people and have you really think about this. You know, we have been in so many wars. We just finished and concluded another 20-year war. Over 5,000 young Americans were killed. And the beauty about America is that Americans never asked for anything. They never asked to take over a country. They never asked for money. All they try to do is give a people an opportunity to have freedom. So all the people who have worn the cloth of our nation, the only thing that you ever ask for is to have a resting place. And if you go all throughout the world, you go to Normandy, you go to the Philippines, you go to many of these battlefields. And of all these battlefields where you'll find Americans buried, the only thing that Americans have ever asked for is a place to bury our dead. That is a testimonial to the greatness of America. And that's the reason we all love this country. That's the reason we want to make sure this country survives. And we're a country now a little bit under stress. So it's very important today. Everyone stands up and be the strongest American you can be today. Be that testimonial to spirit, to service and sacrifice. And never say to yourself today, we will never give up on America. We believe in our country. And that's the reason everyone wants to come to America. America is that bright star, that superstar in the sky. And people come here for simply they want to be part of this experience called America. But we've got to preserve this experience. And this experience has been preserved because of the sacrifice of those who have worn the cloth of the nations and those families who have supported those who have worn the cloth of the nation as they have gone into harm's way, and many of them have not come home. And if you go back and start with the Revolutionary War, and if you add up the number of Americans who have gifted their life to make America what it is. It is remarkable when you look at the numbers. It is almost frightening when you think about the numbers. But freedom is not free. Freedom is something that is always in the work. And America is a country that really is still a country being developed, a country at work. And I want to tell all the young people, like the young man I introduced, your country is in front of you. It's very important that you stand up and be that role model with your contemporaries. Set that example. Be that example. And there's no better opportunity to reflect that example than to be wearing that cloth of the nation. So to you, again, I want to emphasize young people, this is your day, so gift it back to us. Think about America today and make it great. We got several cemeteries here locally, designated cemeteries. We got the Thomasville Old Cemetery, where it's primarily the Civil War dead from this. But there was one individual I really, when I became aware of him, and I was not, and that was Henry O. Flipper. Henry was the first black graduate of West Point, and is interned in one of the cemeteries here. And I'll tell you, what a remarkable story. The first black American that went to the U.S. Military Academy is from Thomasville, Georgia. And who would have ever even thought of that? Who would ever thought that would be a Georgia man? But again, a testimonial to the great spirit of the people from Georgia. And to the Flipper family, if there's any one of his descendants here, I congratulate you on behalf of his memory. What a remarkable legacy to be part of your family tree. So if any Flipper family members are here, God bless you, and God bless for everything that he represents. He represents the greatness of America. With all of our warts and sometimes negative sort of actions we've had against one another, at the end of the day, it's not about the color, it's about the person. And I'll tell you, Flipper was that person. And God bless him for what he represents. And I hope at that museum one of these days, you'll have a big something that's standing out in front of that museum that represents that individual and his legacy. And I hope in some way we can really establish a framework where we can get the word out about Flipper to more people, because I frankly must tell you, I was not aware of that. So during this process of being involved in preparations and trying to come down to visit with you on Memorial Day, I've been educated about another one of the really unique aspects about this country by getting to know Flipper and what he represented to this country. So to all of you today, enjoy yourself. Remember you are Americans. Remember who we are. Remember we're that bright shining star. Remember who we represent and how many people in the world today enjoy freedom, opportunity, and a chance to live a decent life because of the service and sacrifice of so many young Americans who are not with us, who never had a chance to be fathers and grandfathers, who never had a chance to have that family, who never could come home and say, that's my son or my daughter. They're buried in graveyards all throughout the world and all throughout this country. And I love all of you. I'm sorry I can't be with you. I wish all of you a wonderful day, and to all the people who've been involved in this ceremony, thank you so much. And we have to really work harder during these somewhat trying times to protect our country and continue our greatness. So as we would say in the Marine Corps, first, Semper Fi, and God bless you, and go Georgia, but Auburn's gonna beat you, you know that. Bye-bye.